There's a moment deep into Persona 5 Royal where the villain isn't some demon, isn't some corrupt politician, isn't some monster wearing a human face. The villain is a therapist, a genuinely kind man who just wants to end everyone's suffering, forever. No catch. And the game asks you, why would you say no to that? That single question is the reason I think Persona 5 Royal doesn't just have a good story for a JRPG, it has one of the best stories in gaming, period. And today, I want to actually break down why. Not just the characters are cool or the music slaps, though yeah, both true. I mean the actual structure of the story and why it hits so much harder than people give it credit for.
So here's the pitch. If you've never touched this game, you play as a high schooler who gets falsely accused of assault after standing up to a corrupt adult, gets slapped with a criminal record, and gets transferred to a new school in Tokyo where everyone already thinks he's a delinquent before he said a single word. That's it. That's the entire emotional engine of this game, right there in the first 20 minutes. You are guilty until proven innocent, in a world where the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who wrote you off first. And what's smart about Persona 5 is it doesn't stay abstract about that. It gets specific, fast. The very first arc is about a gym teacher named Kamoshida, a literal Olympic athlete turned coach who's abusing his students, both physically and sexually, and every adult around him either looks away or actively covers for him because he brings prestige to the school. That's not subtext, that's the plot. And your character can't go to the police, can't go to a teacher, can't go to a parent because the system already decided he's the criminal. So what do you do instead? You go into his heart.
This is where Persona 5 does something most games don't even attempt. It turns abstract psychology into literal, walkable, explorable level design. Every corrupt adult in this game has a palace, a twisted, dreamlike version of the real world that reflects exactly how they see themselves and exactly how they see everyone around them. Kamoshida sees himself as a king and his students as his slaves, so his palace is a literal medieval castle where students are shown in chains. The art teacher, Mararame, is stealing his students' work and passing it off as his own, so his palace is a museum, and his students' actual paintings are hidden in a hidden vault beneath it because deep down, he knows they're the real thing. Every single villain's inner psychology becomes the dungeon you're fighting through. That's not just a cool gimmick, that's the whole thesis of the story made physical. You're not just beating enemies, you're proving, mechanically, that these people's public image is a lie they've built to survive, and that lie can be torn down. And that's the loop for the first two-thirds of the game. A corrupt adult hides behind status. The Phantom Thieves expose the rot underneath. Repeat with a bigger, scarier target each time. A cult leader artist, a Yakuza loan shark preying on kids, a company president driving his own daughter to attempt suicide. By the time you get to Shido, the corrupt politician pulling every string in the background, a man literally planning to rig his way into becoming prime minister by manipulating public opinion through mental shutdowns and psychotic breakdowns he's engineering himself, the game has fully escalated from one bad teacher to the entire adult power structure is rotten and it protects itself. That's not subtle, it's not supposed to be, and that's honestly part of why it works. This is a story about teenagers who feel powerless against a system rigged from the top, and it refuses to pretend that feeling is irrational.
Now here's where the story stops being cool premise, cool villains, and becomes genuinely great writing. Akechi. For the entire first two-thirds of this game, Goro Akechi is presented as basically a rival, a fellow detective, a fan favorite, a guy who's charming, sharp, and seems to actually respect you. And then, it's revealed he's been the enemy the entire time. He's the one who's been mentally shutting down and driving people to breakdowns on Shido's orders, his own biological father, by the way, who abandoned him. And at the peak of his own arc, he shoots you. In the chest. Point blank. What makes that twist actually land, instead of just being a shock for shock's sake, is that the game had been quietly building his motive the entire time. He's not evil for the sake of it. He's a kid who was thrown away by the exact same corrupt adult world the Phantom Thieves are fighting against. And instead of rebelling against it, he tried to earn his way into it, to make the people who abandoned him acknowledge him. He becomes the dark mirror of your entire party. Same wound, opposite response. And then the game does something even ballsier. It reveals the actual final villain isn't even Shido. It's a godlike being called Yaldabaoth, who's been manipulating the entire cast of villains, feeding off humanity's desire to have someone else make decisions for them, because true freedom terrifies people. That's the base game's ending. You don't just fight corruption, you fight the human instinct to want a leash.
Okay, this is the part I actually care most about, and it's the reason I specifically wanted to talk about Royal, not just base Persona 5. The original game's ending was good, but it wrapped up fast. Royal adds an entire new final act, the third semester, built around a new character, Dr. Maruki, a school counselor who's been quietly helping students with trauma all game. He seems like the nicest adult in the entire cast. Then it's revealed Maruki has the power to reshape reality itself, and he uses it to erase everyone's pain. Your friend who lost her mother's alive again, and no one remembers she ever died. Your friend crushed by his father's expectations? His father is proud of him now, permanently. Every wound gone. Every regret undone. And this is the part that makes Persona 5 Royal special. The game forces you to sit in a fake reality where everything is genuinely, unambiguously better. Not a nightmare, not a trick dressed up as a trap, an actual utopia. And you have to choose to reject it. Maruki isn't a tyrant. He's not hungry for power. He's a broken man who lost the person he loved most and just wants to make sure nobody else has to hurt like he did. His logic is completely sound if you accept one premise, that comfort matters more than truth. The whole game has spent 40 hours telling you rebellion is the answer to a corrupt world. And now in the final stretch, it asks, what happens when the thing you're rebelling against isn't corruption anymore? It's kindness with the truth removed. That's not a twist. That's a genuine philosophical gut punch. And it's the reason critics who reviewed Royal said it finally gave the story the ending it always deserved. Because the real theme of Persona 5 was never adults bad. It was always freedom versus comfort. And Royal is the first version of this game brave enough to make you actually choose.
And that's why I think this story holds up next to any game you want to put beside it. It starts as a heist story about corrupt adults. It becomes a story about a broken kid seeking approval from the world that abandoned him. And it ends as a story about whether happiness without truth is even happiness at all. Most games with a cast this big struggle to make every character's arc matter. Persona 5 Royal ties every single one of them. Kamushida students, Madarane's stolen students, Akechi's abandonment, Maruki's grief back into one thesis. The world will always try to hand you a comfortable lie. Real freedom is choosing the harder truth instead. That's not just good writing for a video game. That's just good writing. If you've played this game, let me know down in the comments what your ending choice was. And if you haven't played it yet, do yourself a favor this year.